Good Monday morning. Welcome, everybody. This is LoreForged, the podcast for Ashes of Creation. And we are your hosts. I'm going to introduce somebody last purposely. So I'm going to go to Sunny Ravencourt first. Welcome back.
Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy.
I know.
I'm first. We're number one. I would say USA, but it's probably Canada, but USA is winning a lot more medals than Canada is. So I'm just going to go USA and be front runner. Plus, JP's wearing a USA shirt, so.
Yeah, I am.
Supporting that Olympic spirit. I love it. I'm going to get my Team Canada hockey jersey out later.
There you go. There you go. And he is back, safe and sound from fighting the fire raid boss up in wonderful world of California. Kash.
I definitely am back. It was like I had the Balrog in front of me for a little while, and I was like, "You shall not." Oh, maybe you will. I'm out. Guys, turn around, go! It's coming.
Oh, that's awesome.
If Gandalf was holding a shovel instead of a wand.
Gandalf was holding a Pulaski, he would have been with me running.
Gosh, that's so funny. Oh my gosh. Well, we're glad you're back.
Thanks, buddy. It was definitely a week. We happened to have a heat wave like right in the middle of this major campaign fire in Southern California. And when we got demobilized on Monday, we came home Monday night. And when we left the line, it was 112 degrees.
Oh,
yes.
Was it that hot because of the fire conditions, or is it just that hot up there?
Ambient temperature at base camp was 112 degrees.
Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
Northern California-ish?
No, Southern.
This is in Southern California.
Yep.
Did you guys
we never made it up north. We actually, normally what they'll do is like I was part of a strike team. One of the rigs that we have, I work for a municipal fire department, but one of the rigs that we have is specifically made for wildland firefighting. So it's got like positive traction. It's an off-road vehicle. It's got, a pump, a tank, and the whole bit. It's a big vehicle. And we were part of a strike team of 5 of those with very specific jobs when we get to the wildland fire. And we handled pretty much everything that we needed to, which was significant over those 5 days. But once your strike team is in the state system, once it's like under state control, very frequently they send you all over the place. They can just go, yeah, you're done at this incident. Head to Oregon, and then you're in the rig.
Oh,
and
they can move you out of the state.
Oh yeah,
wow.
We can go pretty much anywhere. Normally, it's like the tri-state area they'll send us, but we've had guys up in Montana before, Idaho, just all over the place. And I was actually really excited because it's a very rare thing for you to kind of get sent all over the tri-state area. So I was excited to go, even though the temperatures are just crazy and it was super hard work. But we were disappointed. They actually let us go, and I think it's because we were already a week in, and they want units that are 100% fresh if they're going to send you to another fire. So
AV Gaming wants to know if you are a smoke jumper.
I am not a smoke jumper. I am a municipal city firefighter that gets used with the mutual aid system all over the state.
Smoke jumpers are those guys that do that full time. They're your full time wildlands guys.
Yeah. My normal everyday gig is a fire captain on a regular fire engine, just like you'd see going down the street. We just happen to have some specialty units, and I got lucky. So,
yeah, you did.
Glad I'm home. Air conditioning and hydration is essential in the summer.
Turns out
we missed you greatly. You were gone for show 49 3/4. And so we are celebrating show 50 today, and we're very excited. And I got something in the mail.
You did?
Oh,
I did.
Yes. So when you open this, make sure that you explain it
my
for
home
the
address on here. So I'll show the backside of this.
When you open it, make sure you explain it for the audio listeners when you open it.
Okay. Do you want me to do like an ASMR video?
I need you.
Oh God. You do ASMR.
Kind of stream.
Okay, so here's what's going on. I had a birthday in July, and I'm pretty sure this is a birthday present from the boys, and I was not allowed to open it, and then I was going to open it last week, and I'm like, wait a minute, Kash isn't even here. I can't open this on the stream. Kelly brought it up, and then we had a talk, and JB and I decided we would wait a week. And so here we are, show 50. So I get to open it.
50!
50. I'm 50. All right. Close my eyes and throw this down here.
No, Sonny, don't show that on stream. That's private.
Ooh.
Explain what you're seeing.
This is a bag.
Okay.
I have a. It's a bag.
It's a bag. It's good.
It's in here. Oh,
He'll never guess.
No, he has.
another bag.
It's another bag. Or is it?
I think I know what this is.
No, you don't.
I think I know what this is already.
No, you don't.
I do. Oh! I did not see that.
Oh, look at that.
I thought
Yeah,
it might be
buddy.
this, but I did not
What-
see that.
what is it, Sonny?
It is an apron. It's a bartending apron.
And I'm talking to
LoreForged
Jibs.
Bartending apron. With
That
the
came out really good.
LoreForged
Yeah, it did. Look at that.
logo on it.
Look at that. Woo.
Whoa. Okay.
That's cool. Bartending aprons. So yeah, it has LoreForged logo inscribed on the front, leather and canvas.
It's got all the straps in the
Yeah,
back.
it's really, you guys, if you're looking for gifts, Etsy is the way to go.
Oh,
they
yeah.
make the coolest stuff, especially if you have that, if you want that medieval feel.
In it.
Oh yeah.
I gotta put it on like a.
He's gonna struggle getting this on. And what's funny is we can say whatever we want right now and he can't hear
Look
us.
at him, he's
Yeah.
a mess.
Oh, that's awesome.
That
Oh,
actually
look.
looks really good.
It does look good. Look at that thing. It's
Yep.
what color did
All
we go
leather.
with? Is that dark
This.
blue? Is that dark blue? What color did we go with? Is
No,
it gray?
that is
Well,
that would
it
be
looks like
brown.
wearing no pants, but
Sonny is currently wearing
how cool
boxers
is this?
and an apron.
Oh my god! It's got pockets. It's got little like hammer holders. For
He is effing 12 years old.
I know.
stuff.
He does not receive gifts well, so
Oh,
this
man.
is
I'm so excited about this.
Put your headset on, Sonny.
This is the best.
we could have the rest of the show like this.
That is so cool. Look at that
Yeah.
logo.
He's happy.
Yeah, he is.
I can't hear a word you guys are saying, but
That's better that
very
way.
excited about this.
It's by design.
That's so cool. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, buddy.
Yeah, buddy.
You're
Happy
welcome.
birthday.
This is gonna be
We
awesome.
we have to thank Kelly live on the show.
Yes.
Because she definitely helped us with our picks. You have one more gift coming.
Oh, goodness. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know how it could possibly compete with that. That is spectacular. That is so
Yeah.
cool. That makes me immediately want to do like the Varen bartender or something like that.
Do
You
it.
absolutely
Do
should.
it.
Yeah.
should.
Well, I'll have to
Custom
ask,
drinks.
You should.
I'll have to ask. I will have to get permission from the Varen chef to hire you because it's a very exclusive employment.
That's true. I work in the back. Maybe I could be like super jealous of the Varen chef.
There you go.
Be like
You're
a
like-
sort of okay employee, but like
You're the
really
bar
hungry
back.
for social media.
Oh man,
Well,
you
buddy,
totally
we're glad
should
you
do it.
like it. You deserve that, and it looks like the quality is excellent
Oh,
from
top
Etsy. So
notch, top
Yeah.
notch. It's like thick, you know. You could tell that like it's gonna, it's gonna take abuse, and it's one of those things where I don't know like what it is about that, but when you go to a bar and you see a guy wearing something like that, it's just like it lends so much credence to it. Hey, Vladis, and the deal is that, like, for some reason, that sort of rugged, rustic bartender look is just so cool and exists in like, was it a medieval thing? It can it be? But like, it
had to
feels
have
like
been.
it fits in an MMO, doesn't it?
Yep. I want to just bring attention real quick to Vladis, who came in with a bunch of folks. Thank you very much, man. Welcome in and gifted subs.
Oh, good.
Amazing. Hey,
Look at this.
your gifted subs grab Jay Oddity. Very cool, man. Welcome in, Jay.
Nice.
to see you, bud.
Love Jay.
And the
Yeah.
logo, just so good with the logo, right?
Yeah. So this is
O
like
and
the
logo
month.
is such a good idea, JB. JB did the logo for us, and the O and the logo has kind of been like a little sub logo for us.
Yeah.
And it it just works so well.
It fits well in that. You definitely you know what, Sonny? I think that's a call to arms for some Varen drinks. I think we're gonna have to get involved and maybe dabbling in the YouTubes on that one.
Kelly saying, "Move it along."
Sonny's the only guy on the planet that celebrates his birthday for a birth week.
I know.
I'm born in the birth month.
Hey, we got a show to do.
We do have a show.
But again, happy name day, brother.
Yes, thank you very much. That's
Agreed.
awesome. That's awesome.
Agreed.
I can't believe it fit in this little bag.
I know, isn't that pretty impressive? Things like the size of your hand. But anyway, hey, everybody, this is Bard Development Update 2.0. Kash is here, and we finally feel like the triumvirate. Is that how you say that?
Triumvirate.
Thank you. We are back, and it's finally the first time we've all been able to sit down and chat about the Bard. And Kash, I know that you were out. You were away. I'm setting him up as he's shutting his door. We were.
I had a cat I had to let
right.
in.
I could hear a cat getting into the bar.
Crap, crazy.
There was a cat getting into the Sleepy Owl Tavern. I got to get out of here, cat.
Oh, so yeah, Kash, you were out and away saving the world, and you got to watch the Bard update from afar. And to everyone who's listening, what we're going to be doing on this episode specifically is we're bringing in Kash's thoughts and kind of having a second discussion on the Bard, but also we reached out to our community for their discussion questions, and so we're going to be pulling in some of their questions as well and talking about in the show. But Kash, what'd you think, dude? Was it everything that you wanted?
Yes, and I wish that I had the ability to have a little bit more squee, but I literally watched everything. I listened to the release of our show, and I watched the Bard update from. I watched a little bit, like maybe the first half. I think I did like a long lunch at work and watched it. And then that very same day, I got sent to that fire. So I watched the rest of it in the cab of our rig on Firewatch in the middle of nowhere at like 2:00 in the morning. I told my guys, I'm like, now you guys just go to sleep. I'm just going to stay up for a little while. And I'll keep an eye on things.
Everything is fine.
God.
Yeah. So I had quite a bit of squee as I was sitting there watching it. I think overall, It just goes to show that everything Intrepid is putting out, and this goes to speak for not only the content that they're putting out with the game features and the things that we're seeing there, but also with the production value of what they're doing. They have really hit their stride with these productions. So I think the whole thing put together, you can tell that the developers that they're bringing on are excited to be there, a little more calm, cool, and collected on the mic. So it really brings like this great presentation value to everything. But to get into the Bard, I was insanely impressed with everything that I saw. There's a couple little minor points that I do want to point out. I think that the 800-pound gorilla in the room, before I even get into my thoughts on it, was the fact that Alpha 2 did get pushed back. That definitely didn't go unnoticed. But I got to be honest with you, like, I'm not bummed. I'm not bummed at all about it. And I think the reason being is because we're playing the long game here. It's pretty obvious that guys like us are playing the long game. If you're in our chat right now, you're playing the long game. This is the first time that you're here, that you're here seeking out Ashes of Creation content. But, and I really just think, like, if people want to be pissed about it, then go ahead. It's not going to change a thing.
I don't think that was the common consensus, though. I feel like they were right in line with you, that I was that way, JB was that way, and a lot of the other content creators, for the most part, unless you're the kind of content creator that just lives and dies to put a picture of Steven with red eyes on your thumbnail. It's one of those things where I think everyone was kind of like, that's a bummer, but okay,
Yeah, it's one of this is one of those things, guys, that has to cook. It's just gonna cook, and it's gonna be on their timeline. Everything here is going to be on their timeline. They don't have, I'm sure they have stakeholders, but they don't have, a corporate entity that's standing over them saying, "I don't care. you're putting it out. This is on a timeline of, rewind that. Intrepid is a game first studio, not a date first studio. I think that's what Steven said at some point. Like, I loved it.
Yeah.
I'm completely fine with waiting until the thing cooks and is ready to be served.
Look at the flip
JB?
side. Look, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Look at the flip side of it. So let's say it comes out and it's nowhere near ready, you know, as far as an alpha 2 state for people to test. Look at the flip side of what gamers would do. They would say, why didn't you let this cook longer? Or what this is, you know what I mean? So it's just like, you're never going to satisfy. And I get it, like the being bummed out and not being able to play it when you thought you would. I don't want to take away from that from people, but I think Kash, you made a really good point, like early on when you said, like, we're here for the long haul, you know? Like, we're coming up on 1 year of LoreForged, and for us, we knew when we entered the space, we were here for the long haul. It's a marathon and not a sprint. And I really feel like that anybody who's around here right now, like you said, you know, really is the same way. And so you just kind of take it in stride, Sonny.
Kash, I just want to ask you a question, though. I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second here, and I know we have to talk about the Bard. Like, this show is not about a delay of Alpha 2, right? Like, that's the smallest of the things that happened. But I will play devil's advocate on this thing and say, one, how could a game not be ready for Alpha 2? I guess, right? Like, it's testing, right? So if it's broken, I expect it to be broken. But two, they did go ahead and like step out on a ledge and say Q3. Nobody put a gun to their head and said, give me a quarter. And yet they did. And so then they missed it. Does that bring you any alarm?
No, because I think there was a gun to their head. And it was a lot of community people. So I think what happened is that they had previously mentioned that Alpha 2 would be in 2024. And then from there, they wanted to further narrow it down because, you know, what were the things that the trolls were saying? And I hate to say that they were listening to the trolls, but to some extent, maybe they were. And maybe that release window for Alpha 2 6 months ago seemed very doable. But it's just like you guys were talking about on the last show when I wasn't there. It could be one large system that maybe is not working the way that they want it to work. Or it could be several small things that they just want to sew up, and it's going to take that, you know, period of a month to do so. But yeah, I think there was a lot of pressure on them to release at least release a window of when it was going to come out. So, you know, again, like I'm not bummed. Like, and maybe this seems a little bit selfish, but personally, I'm in a spot in my life where I have a lot going on top of everything else. So I'm okay with having an extra month to sew things up for myself before this releases. And I think too, we've talked about the spike that they're going to get when Alpha 2 comes out.
Yeah.
And if they wait a little bit longer, you're going to get the younger folks who are going to be in school and be a little bit more tied into their real life situations. It's not like summer where everybody can, you know, dive in, try the game, say whether or not they love it or hate it, put it all over, you know, social media like the keyboard warriors they are, and then bail. This could focus down the group a little bit more to maybe a little bit more adult audience who's really going to give them a good test, and the other folks will trickle in as they have time. So, you know, maybe starting a little bit later will tamp down some of the disdain that people might get for where like, I didn't know there's PvP. Yeah, there's PvP in the game. Sorry you paid the $225 for it, but there's PvP.
It came with a brochure. You should have probably read that.
Yeah, you might want to have read the fine print before you.
Did you not read that Brady Games guide? Remember those guides that they used to print? Like
Prima guides.
Yeah, I still have the Warcraft one. It's,
yep.
It's a good time.
I saw a Castlevania one in a guy's house the other day.
Really?
Random dude's house, had no other geek stuff in the whole house, and he had this Castlevania Prima guide on the counter. I'm like, what?
You should have done the holy thing and stole it.
Wait.
No.
Are we skipping over the fact that Sonny was in some random dude's house?
Yeah, we're just gonna let that ride.
I work in a job that sometimes has me go into random dudes' houses. The weirdest thing, though, was that it was not associated with anything else.
All right, Sonny's
It
on
would
the
have been
corners
fine
now.
if it was like a bunch of nerd stuff, but it was just like an 80-year-old's house and a Castlevania guy.
Deuce Bigelow over here.
Side story, Sonny's absolutely right. Like in our profession, we end up in strangers' houses all the freaking time. And I look on the walls, I look at their family photos.
We're trained investigators. We take it all in.
But every once in a while, like, you know, we'll find some guy that was like a bombardier on a B-17 or something. You want to talk about having a cool conversation?
Oh man.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then every once in a while you run into gamers. Just like, hey, so what do you play? And it's normally a teenage kid. It's a teenage kid that's looking at me like, what the F?
Yeah, exactly. Right. That's why this is so weird. So weird.
Gosh, that's
Like
funny.
plastic on the couches and stuff. And then the Castlevania guide. I'm like, what is happening here?
Oh, that's
The
good.
dungeon down below your feet.
Oh, goodness.
So, Kash, what'd you think of the bard as far as support role? Do you really feel like? And what? Hold that thought. I want to ask you a question.
I can't hold thoughts for long, bro.
I know it's like a
go
fart.
away.
I know.
Yeah.
Should have seen us last week.
Yeah, right?
I heard the show. I listened. It was fantastic.
All right, so I want to incorporate our first community discussion question on the bard, and this one is from LoreForged community member Wookie, and they ask, and Kash, I'm going to you first for an answer on this, okay? How strong do we anticipate the bard compared to a full DPS role? If a DPS role is doing 100 DPS, then I hope the bard is doing 70 to 80 DPS. Little less than DPS because of its unique healing, CC, and damage bonuses to the group. More DPS than a tank, but less than full DPS role would be fair. Otherwise, overpowered.
I really feel like this is gonna rely on two different things. It's a good question. Thank you, Wookie. I think it's gonna rely on balance, which is always an ebb and flow. As we know, these classes will be constantly under the gun to get them as balanced as possible in relation to other classes. And I think it also revolves around what their anticipated use of the bard is, what the original design for the bard is. And if they feel that they want it to, in regards to how it's spec'd, if they feel that they want the bard to be more of a utility class, then yeah, I absolutely believe that it should have a little bit less DPS because it has so much utility to it, with buffs and healing and, you know, the ability to speed your whole group and all the things that the bard has. However, it also should be flexible with the way that you spec, because I know you guys talked about it on our last show about how the bard doesn't seem like it would be okay for solo play. And I really think that there should be a spec in there that tamps down the utility and beefs up the DPS so that it can be a solo class. I think if they do that and still leaves a little bit of utility and maybe just tamps down those buffs a little bit and tamps down the healing a little bit, that class could be played by folks solo. And I think
we're
that
going to get into
really
that on the next
help.
question. So save your thoughts on that.
I will. I'm pretty much done, but I just think that there should be the ability to play that class solo. I think for a class that is as well done as they have done with the bard, a lot of people are going to want to play it, and it would even exponentiate that number if those folks were able to play solo.
Yeah, I think that though, unfortunately, those, like, you got a little bit into our next question, but it's hard to separate them, right? Because if you have DPS and you're asking questions about DPS, well, inherently the best. You know what? I'm going to try my damnedest not to get into solo play on this because that next question is meant for me. Like, that is my question. So I'm just going to say raw DPS out of the bard. I was hoping for more. I don't see that. And I know that you can spec these things different, but man, did that bard have a complementary bag of tools for a group. It was designed to help everyone else be better. And so you're inherently going to sacrifice DPS. I would be surprised if it was any higher than like 60%. I think that 60% number is probably the closest to the truth for me, because everything was just, it was just like, here, you're better at this. Here, you're faster with this. Here, now we can escape. You know, it's like all of these tricks in the bag, and every one of those things costs you DPS ultimately, right? Like, I'm not saying good, bad, or otherwise, but that's what it is. When you have a whole bunch of tools that are utility tools, they're not DPS tools. And so that kind of stuff will ultimately lower that number. So I'm going to say 60. JB, what do you think about that?
So right now we're running a poll with everyone who's watching over at LoreForged Live, which, by the way, everyone who's listening or watching on YouTube, come join the live shows. You can be a part of the experience. Over 86%, like, it's just being blown out of the water right now. 87% of people are saying, how much DPS should the Bard put out compared to DPS rolls? And they're saying 40 to 70%. Somewhere in that
40 to
bracket.
70%, yeah. So
Yeah.
less than 70% of a rogue, mage,
Tank.
ranger,
Yeah.
not tank.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Tank is probably going to be around that 40 to 70%.
Maybe not even fighter. Like, it's hard to tell, right? Like, it's hard to tell what they make the fighter. So, but yeah, like, summoner would probably be another just pure DPS class, right?
Right. And that makes sense. Like, that to me, like, you're a support role. You are a support role. Like, you should not be in the competition for top deeps for a situation versus another DPS role when you are a Bard. Shouldn't be a thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you're fully spec'd for group play, then I would put the Bard akin to a class in MMOs like the Evoker in Warcraft, where you're not going to have the DPS numbers. You're probably not even going to be on the chart right above a healer. But at the same time, you are so sought after because of all of the different things that you can do for the group that it makes your spec incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's a transition here, and I think that the transition for me is Warcraft, and it is the Druid. Okay. So the transition for me is whether you could consider the Bard to be something that you could spec in the way that you want to play it. So Woodsman Zeshan said, like a few others, I'm worried about the solo play capabilities of the Bard. However, Ashes is group gameplay first mentality. Should I be concerned about the Bard's solo capabilities, even if the Bard is bad at solo gameplay? Could have just been the showcase format. I have no idea how strong or weak the Bard is. So basically what Woodsman's saying is like, look, I watched this thing and there was no solo shown at all. Like, no capabilities, nothing like that. Is that a concern for you? First of all, is that accurate? And two, is that a concern? Who wants to take this one first?
I'll take it. I will say, remember, there is a cleric that is full heal. Like, that is their thing, is to heal. Like, that's their main role. Now, granted, you can play around with, you know, how you spec said cleric, but remember, there is a cleric that real focus really is healing. They have to be able to do solo things to an extent. So if a cleric who's meant to heal has to be able to have those things, you can expect the Bard to fare far better than the cleric, I would say, from a solo standpoint. As far as when it's coming to like a damage perspective, even if you're speccing it out for full damage. And that was a really good question that Woodsman brought up, and thank you for asking it, because that was definitely something that, you know, Sonny, you and I kind of talked about last week. That was kind of what was left on the table. Like, we saw what it did for a group from a buff standpoint and how it can help the group, but we don't know how it fares from a solo standpoint with damage. And that is currently an unknown. It really is. But I would say, just remember there's a cleric. And if there's a cleric that they know that they have to be able to handle themselves to an extent, like from a solo perspective, well, I would imagine the Bard is going to fare far better.
I think there's zero chance that Intrepid builds a class that is not viable for solo play in some way. It might take you longer to kill things as a bard, but you will have the CC, you'll have the ability to charm, you'll have the ability to speed away, to make more space. And I think it's going to be the same thing for any class that is either a pure healing class or a pure utility class. So, you know, say you're out there and you didn't bring a friend, you're just by yourself. It might take you a little bit longer to kill things, but you have a lot more tools in your toolbox than, say, a rogue or a ranger. Look at a ranger. I mean, look at how challenged a ranger will be if they allow a fighter to close the distance. They're going to be challenged because that is an innate weakness of a ranger. They're made for ranged combat. And I think all of these classes is going to have those little areas of weakness. And if that particular weakness for the bard has to be in DPS output, there are going to be other things that are going to be able to balance the class. So you might not be able to put out 100% of damage or what a pure DPS class would be, but I still think there's zero chance Intrepid builds a class that's not viable solo.
I'm going to disagree with you on that. I think that there is a possibility that Intrepid builds a class that, well, when you say things like zero, right? Like that's that multiple choice test thing. It's like if he says never, don't pick that answer.
Or always.
Always don't pick that answer. That's kind of what you're saying, right? Like zero viability, of course not, right? Of course there's going to be some viability for him. But like I really think that Intrepid might build a bard to excel in group play and sacrifice that solo type of situation. I didn't see anything in that kit that made me think solo. Now, the exception to this is a lot of the stuff that you said does make me think that if there's a way to play this bard solo, it's like a stunlock rogue. It's like it's one of those characters that you just hate to play against because they just lock you down, they jack you up with all sorts of weird things. Your whole rotation is out the window. You're just trying to make anything happen. And that would be the way that I could foresee the bard existing in a solo world. I will say this, that watching the stream, you know, that was one of my big things. Selfishly, I have heavily been considering the bard, but I am also kind of a solo game player. And that thing made me, it was so skewed to the group side of things that I thought, man, they are going to be like almost a mandatory pick in a group setting. Like they seem tremendously important in a group setting. And on the inverse, I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to play this character. Because I think that when you have those conversations about 60% DPS and, you know, viable in some way in solo play, like you're inherently not a solo archetype. You're just not. You're a group archetype. That is what the bard was to me. And so am I worried about it? Should I be concerned about it? Like, I guess not, right? Like, it's just what they made the bard to be that I can see so far.
So Woodsman is actually in chat here, and they say, so how do you feel about gaming immunity to CC in PvP if overused? In other words, diminishing returns. Will that make it harder for bards with less damage and potential more utility? So I'm going to say this. In Ashes of Creation, ultimately there is counters to you, which I'm kind of excited to see return to the MMO space. Because currently what you see oftentimes in like the major AAA MMOs nowadays is that everybody can defend against everything, and you really lose that identity for who can counter someone else. To answer that question from Woodsman, I would say that sometimes we had an old friend who said this, and it's always stuck with me. Sometimes you're the hammer and sometimes you're the nail. And ultimately, when you have all this CC going out and you have those diminishing returns, you have a window. You have a very brief window that you can operate within that CC for damage. You know, whether you're bringing out those sagas, you know, which we got to see, which those AoE kind of abilities, or maybe something else entirely. You have that window to work within. it's up to you to make the most of it. And ultimately, you may not be able to beat everything. You may not. Because again, I'll be the first to tell you, as a bard, going against a rogue that knows what they're doing, that understands their skills, I expect to lose. Like, if I win, it's a miracle.
Yeah, I like that. That sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail, and I summarize that. And sometimes you just get got, and that is something that I do miss in games because, and this is just piggybacking off of what Jib said. He's absolutely right. You look at a game like Warcraft, and they have made the counter to the counter to the counter, and now all of a sudden, we kind of covered this too when we had a show on utility skills. And it seems like a lot of games have kind of landed there in the evolution of their development, is that there's so many utility skills for every single archetype that it almost seems like the best players will know what to use at what time during those opportunity windows that you were talking about, Jibs. And I kind of do. I mean, I don't like being on the receiving end of it, but I kind of do miss those days when you would see a certain class come over the horizon and just go, "Oh, fudge." And you just gotta go. Like, you're like, there's zero chance of me doing that. And the best one that I remember was when I was a fledgling Jedi in Star Wars Galaxies, and I would see a fully stocked Boba Fett armor bounty hunter come over the rise. And just like, dude,
oh, no.
I'm out.
It's a good thing I wore my brown robes.
Yep. Good thing I have my Padawan robes on because I have 3 of these. And I'm definitely going to poop this one.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So just to close it up, I miss those days. That is a lot of fun to see that kind of stuff go on. But I just think depending on how you spec your bard, it will still be viable. Not as strong, but viable in a solo scenario. And with enough utility to be able to just get the F out of there if you got to do that.
So, Kash, we're going to kind of steer a little bit here. What did you think of the spell book? Because this was the first time we got to see that beautiful, big, nasty tome with all its glory showcased in the dev update. #big.
I love how you set me up because you know exactly what I'm going to say.
Oh, I know. I'm just, I'm smiling.
Yeah. This coming from a guy who will grind whatever he has to grind to get a drop just so that I could have a floating lore book next to my character. And this thing is like, this ain't your granddaddy's lore book. This thing is big. It's arcane. It's magical. And the effects that were coming off that thing, I was just like, I'm rolling a mage now. It's just going to go with a mage so well. But
you can do it with anyone. You can do it with the book goes anywhere.
It does. It goes with any character. I just don't really see a ranger running around with a book. It might not fit my archetype. It might not fit my travel pack friends, but
hey,
oh my gosh.
What's on the ridge over there? Is that a giant floating book hiding behind a tree?
Exactly.
That's good.
But just the love that they put into that, you can tell the effort and love that went into this thing. And I could just picture the development team bringing this to Steven and Steven going, yeah, this is awesome. Make it bigger. Big book. And gosh, man, the way the pages turned and the arcane energy just comes off of it with every spell. I was really blown away with how beautiful that thing rendered out and for how smooth it looked.
Yeah.
Just the way that those animations worked. And I'm sure not everybody's system's probably going to run the game as well as what they're showing this game on. But oh my gosh, it blew my mind how beautiful it was.
what did you think of how the abilities were coming from the book? So like they talked about it in the stream. So it's not the character that's kind of like the focus when you're doing these abilities. It's the actual tome itself.
To me, it makes sense. It makes sense because if I am to run around with that book as a ranger, I'm still going to have some connection to the essence, right? But I would be, at least this is how I'm going to RP it in my mind. I would be using that book to channel and exponentiate those powers of the essence because I'm a ranger, right? I have more martial skill than I do skill and prowess in the essence. Mm-hmm. But if you have that book just takes what you do have and it just exponentiates it. Yeah. So I love the way that they did that to where you're almost using it as a conduit.
Right.
To make your essence stronger. Right. Just very well done.
Yeah, I agreed. And that's one of the things Sonny and I were talking about last stream was, like, there is no way that we are not taking screenshots and zooming in first person to see what's on those pages. There is no way we are not, even if it's nothing, right? The point is,
it says LoreForged.
I mean, this.
I know it does.
You know what you're getting, right? Yeah, like it. There's no way we don't do that thing, and to see, the detail with the pages flipping, you're talking about that, and just the way that the book is animated and moving as you're moving, and you're kind of juck and jiving during these group play sessions, just pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. It was neat to see the bard in action.
We do that in every game that we play. If there's some kind of a cryptic text, we are going to locate that cryptic text.
Oh yeah.
We're going to try and decipher it. We did a lot of it in New World because they had a ton of little Easter eggs.
They really did.
And we were able to kind of take that research and transfer it over to real world stuff. And like, we just completely nerded out on stuff like that. So, which is why during the AMA with Sonny, we literally strong-armed him into asking the question about whether or not there's going to be translatable dialects in the game with just, things scribed on the wall. You imagine some orc structure out in the middle of some dense jungle swamp that just has markings on the wall that you can decipher and find out what they say.
Oh,
oh my gosh, like the VAC. Holy shnikes. That would just be insane. And hopefully stuff like that gets put into the game later. But yeah, the stuff on that book, like we're absolutely going to try and figure out what the hell that means. You guys ready to move on? Because otherwise I'll just talk about nerd stuff for the rest of the night.
Well, I just want to ask one question. This is a totally sidebar and just came up. But do you guys ever feel like when, while we're covering the game and we see these monthly updates, do you ever just have the feeling like, I know what I think I want to do in this game? Be it class, be it race, be it maybe even, like, what do you want to invest in as far as like professions or whatnot, or gosh, what are they called? I'm forgetting. Dad moment, not professions, but you know what I mean. Artisans? Yeah. Do you ever just feel like I know what I think I want to do, but like until you get in there, you're just really not.
Are you trying to tell us that you want to play a dwarf? Is that what's going on here?
No. I see what's happening here.
Just say it. You want to play a dwarf. You saw the dwarf. You want to play a dwarf.
No, I just want. Sometimes I get that feeling like, because there's just, and it's not a bad problem to have. You're just like, I'm undecided.
Folks, what he's doing here is he's setting everybody up. If you want to know a little backstory here, Jibs has an insane fear of commitment in games, which is why I'm insanely surprised that you are happily married. Just insanely surprised.
So committed in life, so uncommitted in games.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, like you scoffed at me a few episodes ago when I looked at the audience and said he's going to switch his main. That's going to happen.
Least 10 more surprising moment to us ever, though.
Yeah. So yeah, sometimes I do get that feeling, but for once, I mean, I'm pretty locked in. I mean, I changed. I was gonna go Pyre, and I've changed that since.
You haven't seen a Pirate though.
I know, but I'm pretty stuck on Aelin. I think I'm gonna go.
You're gonna
Aelin.
see a Pirate. Come on.
Why don't you just shut up? That'd be okay.
See, it's not just me. See, you don't know me.
But they're all good. They're all good. But I'm pretty stuck. And I'm not gonna lie, I will have my own moment of wavering and wobbling on the fence when that rogue comes out.
Oh, buddy.
I will have my mark it right now. I will have my own moment of wobbling.
See, I had the opposite. I had the opposite with this. And I had the thing where like I looked at that bard and I'm like, this thing is awesome and it might not be for me. That was what it was. It was a weird feeling because it was so awesome. And like the abilities and the music and the all of it. Like it was great. It was one of my favorite dev updates I've seen yet. And at the end of it, I thought like, and I'm probably not going to main this. Yeah. Just kind of one of those weird feelings. But yeah, so I had the opposite of it.
Well, we have one more question that I want to cover here. And this question comes from our dear friend Tested Weevil, who's at the Slipknot concert right now. Hope you're having fun, buddy. Hope you're banging your head the way I'd be doing. And his question is, well, one of the big questions I have after seeing the Bard in action, do you actually feel that what they have done for the Bard fits well to what Bards are in other games, such as tabletop? Bards to me have always been a jack of all trades, which fits what we saw, but I'm interested in our opinions. So Sonny, I'll go to you first. What do you think? Is the Bard in Ashes of Creation the typical archetype that you would see of Bards in fantasy?
100%. 100%. Couldn't be happier. Could not be happier about that. Like there's things that I wasn't happy about the Bard. It wasn't this. This is it. This was right on the head. I thought that it was weird. It was whimsical. It was musical, but also theater and then also storytelling. Like the thing that they are doing with the sagas at the end for an ultimate ability, for your saga to be an ability that then tells a story, and that story is animated and also references something that's actually happening in the world. Like, that's bonkers. That is wildly bonkers. That gets all of it from me. That gets 100% of shock value from me. And I thought that, like, honestly, like it felt just so right as a Bard. And I kept thinking, like, to Chris Pine's character in the Dungeons and Dragons movie, they're like, this is him. Like in a sort of like a weirder, more enhanced version. But like, it's all of it, right? Like you just are that person that does all of the stuff, and you're not carrying the big shield or the big sword or anything like that. You're a Bard. Like you have to exist in this weird other fringe world that somehow you get tagged on with these insane warrior adventurers, and like you're not scared of death, which you should be because you're carrying a lute like,
that you can swing.
Yeah, I did see an El Kabong in there, which was pretty awesome. It was just perfect. Like from a thematic standpoint, could not be happier with what I saw.
Jibs, what do you think? Is this a typical Bard?
This is the next step for the Bard. You know, like my head space goes back to when I played Lotro in 2007, when it came out, and eventually I ended up playing a minstrel as a healer, and that was my jam for a while, and I really enjoyed it because it was so unique and it was so different, and it was so polarizing to me because it was just so different, you know. And Sonny hit the nail on the head, I think. You know, like you exist in this odd parallel world when in a world where there are warriors and mages and rogues, there's a dude with a lute. Well, you know, like
it's a guy with nimble fingers.
Yeah, like it's just like you exist in this weird universe, and it's just it really does feel like it harkens back to tabletop. You know, I said on last episode, and I'll say it again, it felt like we went back in time, and that this is a love letter to tabletop, you know, like this class specifically. It exists in this weird space when everything is so cut and dry, and then you have a dude with a lute, a drum, or a fiddle, as they named it in the, you know, like, and they were, you know, the part that shocked me the most to answer that question, Weevil and Kash, is how incredibly intricate the bard is from a mechanic standpoint.
Oh boy.
To really, truly min-max this class, I feel like it's going to seriously take some effort. And I'm excited to see that because you don't see that very often from a support class like this, I feel like.
Kash, what do you think of the bard? Was it a good example of bard?
I think what they did was take all of the best aspects of a classic bard and they gave it the Ashes of Creation flavor, which is always, as we've witnessed so far, it's always just the right amount of over the top, just the right amount of wow factor was put into this bard. And I take it to two very simple skills. And the first one being, I'm trying to see which ones they're called here, but the ability to swing your Yaz flute at your enemy and have that thing whistle every time you swing it. I was dying. Like, oh my God, that flavor they added to that was absolutely awesome. And the other one was the ability to throw a freaking tomato.
Get off the stage. Nomad had it in the chat. Get off the stage.
Get off the stage. Yep. I was absolutely blown away by two of those. So to say that I was impressed with the showcase of the bard and how the archetype was presented to a bunch of classic fantasy players who were really looking for that classic feel would be an understatement. They really did nail the bard, and it's my excitement for it does not come without a little bit of criticism, because I did have some criticism, and it lands for me. It lands with the melodies and the tunes that play when you're executing some of the skills. Some of them had some really neat music that played with it, little melodies that played while the skill was taking place. And I was very happy with those. And I fully understand that they have to walk a very fine line. They have to balance the ability to showcase the effects of these skills and spells and balance it with the ambient music that's in the game. Totally understand that. But some of the skills where the bard was clearly playing a musical instrument, and there was like these arcane musical notes coming off of them, were silent with barely any sound. And I don't know specifically what they were. They were in the earlier part of the showcase, and I just remember going, "Oh man, like there should be a musical melody coming with that sound." And then later in the showcase, as they started showcasing some of the other skills, they did have those. So I think all I'm saying and asking for is more music. I just think it would be super cool if every one of those skills, besides swinging your flute, which was just on the money with that sound.
It sounds like a guy was in a studio with a flute, winging it into like a punching bag.
Dude, he was.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Exactly. And like, so there is some real thought and attention to detail in that particular skill, but there were some that we could just add some more effects to. And I think Margaret had said something about audiophiles in there, and like she's right. Like we are absolutely that. We thrive off of these immersive sounds. It brings so much to your gameplay. So I think some of those skills that are maybe lacking the music could stand a little bit more effect with some melody in there when those things are firing off. But honestly, that's really the only thing that I have that's a negative. I was just so impressed with everything else with the Bard Showcase.
Kash, I want to ask you a quick follow-up on that. A lot of people I have heard, this is one of the most fair criticisms I've heard of the Bard, is that you didn't see enough actual instrument type of stuff. You had the flute, yes, and you had the El Kabong with the lute once, I think. But I think because there was a lot of focus on the spell book, that it sort of took away from the bard. A lot of people were looking for a bard with an instrument or something like that. Did you think that the bard lacked that sort of connection that a bard typically has to his instrument?
Yeah, there could be a little bit of that, but from what I understand, there's going to be several instruments that will render. There's going to be a whole bunch of different things that you can carry, right? So I could see, say if you're a bard, like one of the things that I think of right off the bat is a lute. If you have a lute and you have it equipped, it should be slung around your back, and if you're using it, then yeah, seeing that thing strum as you do it and see some of these effects come out of a lute would be cool. However, how difficult would it be if, say, another instrument that you could play would be a drum? Now they have to do all those renders with the spell effects coming out of a drum and changing the effect of you actually playing a drum and changing the sound. So I kind of understand that, to where as a bard in this game, you might not necessarily see what instrument that you are playing because we have to be too much going on in the background to render that. Maybe you just have this innate musical ability, and that's where these arcane notes are coming from and such. So yeah, I'd love to see it. I would love to see an instrument in their hand while you're doing this stuff, but I just think it would be too much of a heavy lift.
All right, super last quick one before we wrap up and we get a grade from you on this one. I don't think we talked enough about it. Thoughts on dances from the Bard?
I liked the dances because the dances did come with that music. Those were the one they showed them a little bit later, and those were the skills that really did start to come with some musical effect. I thought they were insane. Like the actual dance part. I wonder if those dances are going to be part of emotes or if those are going to just be exclusive to the Bard. I mean, the dance moves, not all the spell effects and stuff that are coming off of him. I loved the area of effect on some of them. Was like, holy shnikes, that's a big effect. You're getting your whole group, and anybody that's standing within a country mile of you is getting that effect. So I thought it was pretty cool. The range on some of those things. I thought that they were different enough from each other to lend to a lot of variety. So yeah, I was just impressed. I mean, I liked how it's like melodies and all of these different things, like everything from like Get Off the Stage to, there was just such great names for these things. What they did, it blew my mind. But the dances in particular, I thought were very well thought out before they were thrown out there as abilities.
So what's your grade on this overall? Like when you saw everything from top to bottom out of 10?
This one was going to be a heavy lift just because the anticipation that everybody had going into it. Everybody had a feeling that they really need to nail the Bard. I think people feel kind of the same way about the Rogue. But, and it also will be the Summoner. People are going to feel like, well, I've been this damn long. They better really nail this thing.
What have you done for me lately?
I think despite my small complaint about it, which was the music, I think this is probably the coolest class that they have released. They put a lot of love into this, and that is fanfare, and that is Intrepid just wanting to satisfy the masses. This gets a 10 from me. My first 10. I've never given a 10.
Look at you go.
Yeah. Above and beyond my own class, right? And don't get me wrong, I love my Ranger. But this showcase, how they just rendered out this classic style bard and gave it their own flavor, 10.
Yeah.
All the way. Yep.
Yeah. I gave it my highest score too.
Mm-hmm.
Like I
9.5, right?
Across the board, I was surprised. I was just so good, you know.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that we didn't mention, which I can't mention enough, is the cool mechanic of like stacking the deal where you throw the tomato into like a humiliate, like where you just double down on it. You just keep going.
Yeah.
Like there's like, it was just never ending. The amount of like cool things that they just kept layering on and all that. And then at the end, you get this flip book dragon saga thing that has an actual lore behind it. I'm just like, come on now, Intrepid.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, buddy.
Yep. Flip a coin to your Witcher.
That's right.
Absolutely freaking cool. And you're right. Like, I love that's how some of these abilities will stack. And that one in particular, which is funny. Like, the guy's already pissed that you threw rotten fruit at him. And now you've humiliated him, and it literally shows up on his bar as a debuff. Humiliate. Well, freaking done.
Agreed. Well, I can't think of a better way to end this episode. Folks, thank you everyone who tuned in. This was LoreForged, the podcast for Ashes of Creation. And thank you so much to Wookie, Woodsman, and Tested Weevil for the submitted questions, and all the others who submitted. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed this show, this part really does help us. If you enjoy your time here, like, we're coming up on our 1-year anniversary, and we want to hear from you. Let us know how we're doing, whether it's Spotify or Apple Podcasts or YouTube in the comments section, or, subscribe, whatever you do. Just let us know how we're doing. We certainly do appreciate it. And you can do that on any podcast app again, or YouTube. So you can always call us as well, 516-875-1776. Email us at loreforgedhq@gmail.com. And again, don't forget, 1-year anniversary episode is coming this month. And we are definitely in the bowels of working out a very fun episode for all of you. So anyway, loreforgedhq@gmail.com. Sonny.
I wish you wouldn't say we were in the bowels of it.
Well, I wanted to get deep. We just went right in there, Sonny. We just...
Oh, that's deep.
That's deep.
Bowels are deep.
Yep. No. All right.
I accept my yellow flag.
Oh, no, wait, that was you. Sorry. Get that flag up there. Now I'm on track. Website, you can go to LoreForged.com to find links to all of our Ashes of Creation content. This is usually the time where Katie comes into our Twitch chat and puts one of those little exclamation things. So what I did today is found out how I can make my own thing, and I made a little Katie thing. So it just says,
you are
how
5.
Awesome is Katie?
You are 5. I'm helping.
I know. It took
what
me,
happens when he tinkers.
no lie, 20 minutes to figure out how to do that. And it's probably something that like anyone under the age of 25 could have told me in 8 seconds. But YouTube, you can go to our YouTube channel for our all of our lore stuff and fun and this show and everything. And that's at youtube.com/@LoreForged. We have some new videos out. They are becoming less and less new, but they are still spectacular. They're some of our best stuff, and that is the new Baron Chef video and JB's video on bards. JB has a video on the history of bards, and it is awesome. I actually really like this one, and it fits perfectly. Cash, you were going to say something?
I'm going to blow some minds with our next video.
Ooh.
If you're into speculation, we have some speculation about the missing gods that we don't quite know very much about, and the others that is going to be coming out. I'm feverishly working on it to get it done for Friday. And just because I'm feverishly working on it, I took the day off of work tomorrow.
You probably deserved a day off.
Yeah. I do deserve a day off.
Yeah. Okay. Twitch.tv/LoreForgedHQ. You can see this, what I call the big show. And that is once a week. We don't always record it on the same time every week, the same day specifically. We usually record at the same time, but you're able to check that out. And then also I've been streaming all sorts of fun little games while we talk about Ashes of Creation. And we've had a lot of interesting conversations about Ashes of Creation lately. So that's been pretty darn good times. Patreon is where you can find the State of the Owl, our once a month special episode exclusive to our patrons only. And they get access to everything that we do early, as well as a special channel where we kind of get the gauge of what they're interested in and ask them questions and stuff like that, because we really trust their opinion. And that is at patreon.com/LoreForgedHQ. Cash.
Adventures, if you can dodge all of the politics going on X, find us at LoreForged HQ for some pretty cool stuff.
You can't.
It's a dangerous place in X lately. Stay away from all that stuff. Actually, some really good filters that won't even put any of that stuff in your feed. So
Really?
Yep. It's actually quite fantastic. So anyway, follow us on X at LoreForged HQ. You can follow us on Instagram at LoreForged HQ. And we have some amazing new members in our Discord community this week. Let's see if I can do this in one breath. Welcome to Shipples, Felipe Alegria, Styles, Krypton, Ryan Fisher, Jin Woo, Red Phoenix, Good Boy, Bet You're a Bad Boy, The Stranger, Out of Quarters, probably a fireman, Schooled, and Will Hunting, which Good Will Hunting is actually an excellent movie. It's not your fault, Sonny. It's not your fault.
Not you, man.
It's not your fault.
Not you.
Oh, gosh. Well, everybody, thank you again so much for tuning in, and we appreciate you. Thank you, everyone who's here at LoreForged Live. I mean, you guys are just the best, and we appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for listening. We'll see you right here next week on LoreForged. Take care, everybody.
Peace, love, and honeybees.
Safe travels, adventurers.